Oh my God. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Your Abundance podcast. I'm super excited. I have to riff on this. I was so triggered this morning at 3:00 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I was scrolling Instagram, and I was looking at my usual peeps who I feel good around and who are making high income, but I wasn't really feeling triggered by it. So I was feeling I didn't have a shadow there or anything. I felt I was pretty good relationship with money. But I came across this story that one of my mentors had shared, and it was another person that shared their post or whatever. And I went into it and I found this woman. She's got a following of about 14,000 people, and she's about to hit 8 figures a year. And intrigued. I'm always curious. I was always curious. What's this? What is she doing to do that? I look for expanders out there, always looking for expanders. And at the time, like I'm lying in bed, whatever time in the morning, ridiculous. I was sitting there looking at this woman's stuff and reading her posts, and her posts were quite, I'm not going to say aggressive, because she didn't present as aggressive. She presented as, she was a woman, but she was quite young, but had this young girl aspect to her. And she's making these 8 figures. And I could feel this energy with it that was just like, this just doesn't feel, something's off here. Something doesn't feel good. Why am I picking up on this energy? Because I pick up on other people. And I noticed she was coaching people who I follow. We make great coaches. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I thought, that's just such an interesting pairing, because I'm getting this vibe of this lady and this other woman, completely different vibe. And I was like, oh, I'm surprised that she's chosen her to coach her. And I was sitting in that. And as I dived a little deeper, this one ran this membership. It was $99 a month. And then she had all these other programs and masterminds. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to sit and explore what's happening here. I was drawn in. There was a couple of posts. I was like, oh, she's pretty out there. But I was picking up this black energy that was, I felt like she was angry. And I'm like, is this my own shit coming up? Or is this, what I'm picking up? I'm highly intuitive, so it doesn't really matter who I look at. On Instagram, I pick up their stuff. And I'm very aware of that. So I'm sitting there and I'm feeling this energy. And all of a sudden, like, I got to a point where I went into her programs and everything, and I went, oh, that's interesting. She's a clone. It was very much a clone of other coaches that I'd seen. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can see how she's doing that and what she's done to make that happen, because I could see that in other coaches. But I was going through her content and I was like, I wasn't attached to it. And I was like, I don't feel good about this. Like, it's not the coach that I want to work with. You're wondering why I keep looking for this coach. I keep looking for a coach to work with. And I've got a few that I've resonated with, and I've got a couple that I keep looking at and coming back to. And I was like, why do I keep looking for this coach? And anyway, 3:00 in the morning, I decide I've got to go to sleep. It's ridiculous. And I put my phone away, but I could still sense that thing. And I was like, it's all right. I'm just going to leave it there. I'll deal with it in the morning. So we get up to our stuff this morning, and then I get back. Christmas groceries were delivered, unpacked those. And I was listening to a brand called To Be Magnetic, and I love them. And I am a member of their membership. They offer a subconscious reprogramming, EDMR. My code, I will put my code. It's just, you can put Erin at checkout and get 15% off. And you can sign up monthly or for the year, and it's worth every cent. I've loved it this year. I've signed up at the start of 2023, and I will be having it in my toolkit for 2024, because it is not the only thing that I do for my manifestations to come in, but it is high on my agenda of things that I do. And I really benefit from it. So I will put that in the show notes for anyone who wants that, the details on that. However, I use their work, and we have been doing a manifestation challenge this 6 weeks. We were at the end of that and they were doing the last final call, and I got back and I realized, I'm late on for this to watch this call, and it's where people can ask questions. I was sitting there listening, and they started talking about shadow work, and when you're triggered, sometimes what it looks like is jealousy, envy. But to be honest, if you suppress jealousy or envy, or the thing in your shadow is trying to come out, you will see it in someone else in a negative way, or it might be a feeling or whatever. And this was a feeling for me. It was a feeling, and I trust my feelings, and I always go with where I find resonance. Currently, I was witnessing a small mastermind, and I'm getting so much out of it, and it feels really aligned because she feels very similar to me, and we feel good. So I was looking at, okay, I'm just going to work. I was like, okay, I was listening to this call and I was like, all right, the shadow came up again. I was like, it made me go back and think about that woman. And I was like, what is this to me? Am I picking up on this person, or am I picking up on her as well as it's me being a shadow, which can happen too. If I'm triggered, I try to run a squeaky clean ship for my clients. But when it's my own stuff, I'm out there and I'm working on myself. I try not to bring those into my container, but we are all human. And so when you're selling something out in the marketplace and people are reading your energy, and they're picking up on your energy, you know what you're selling, you might not be blocked in, but you might have other blocks behind you. I pick those up naturally, which is what was actually happening. So when I actually looked at it, I was like, it was making me pissed off. And I was like, why am I pissed off that this person's making all this money? I'm normally like, good on you, girl, you go, I love it. But it was actually about the presentation of it, but also the fact that I can sense this woman had other stuff that she needed support with, but she'd cracked the money code. She's earning 8 figures. And so I was like, all right, so what is the difference between a wealth code and a money code? And I call them codes. If you're new here, code is your brain's belief systems. We use the word codes. So I started to pack like this feeling like, is she angry or am I angry? Or is it a combination of both? And I'm picking it up and that's why it's triggering. But I dug it a lot deeper, and I was triggered by the fact that this young woman had hit 8 figures by replicating somebody else. And I was like, she was still being herself completely. That wasn't the case. But I was like, how has she done that? It's just like, where is this coming from? Because the how is never helpful. I just want to say, I've been grappling in this last week around me trying to follow a formula for myself, which is never helpful because I have no formula. If I said, this is what I did to make that $40,000 next time for me, that won't happen the same way. It was just a block, which, as I unpacked, was part of this exchange. She's cracked the money code. And I was like, hang on, I feel wealthy all the time. I'm not making 8 figures, but I feel wealthy. I'm doing all the things. And I was like, what is the difference between money codes and wealth codes? And I looked into that and I was like, okay, money codes, money is man-made. That was what I was like. Money is man-made is what came out. Wealth, you could feel wealthy and not have money. You can feel wealthy and be broke. You can feel wealthy because you have a wealth of love, you have a wealth of family, you have a wealth of amazing things happening, but you can still be broke. There's a difference between being poor and broke as well, but that's a whole other podcast. But in my feeling, I was like, I'm doing the wealth. Like I've done the wealth through and through this whole year. I've been feeling the wealth. And slowly, and surely different things would change. I'd hit a plateau in my income and I was like, well, how do I get over this? How do I get over this? How do I get over this? I kept asking, how do I get over this? Which was having me look for these coaches. And so what I worked out with this belief was that money is man-made. So I dug a lot deeper. And when I do my work and what I do and the things that I coach with and the tools, I like to utilize energetic containers that are in the abundance portal. And so I was listening to this To Be Magnetic Masterclass live call. So I was already in the energy of it. So it was already activated. And then what I was doing was just going back into my subconscious. I find where, like I dig first, before I go back into the subconscious, I dig down into the belief and ask myself, why am I believing that? Now, my system is like, I have a technique that I use and I teach my clients, but at the same time, it's literally just my belief was money is man-made. So wealth is a feeling. I can feel wealthy, but I can't feel money because money is outside of me. And so there was a disconnection already with my belief system, one. And two, there's something in me that believes that money is man-made when I know in every like there's a part of me that knows it's just energy, right? Whatever through and through. But there's a part of me that also is like, this money's still outside of me. Why is it outside of me? I get that. There's something that's telling me I can't get that money. And as I broke it down more and more, it went back to my parents, obviously, but me in my younger day. And we're talking 1970, like I was 1975, 1980s, I reckon it was, 1980. And we used to go, my mum used to get in the car on a Thursday. We'd drive down to my dad's work and we would pick up the paycheck in one of those yellow envelopes. It was cash in an envelope. And you're probably listening to this if you're in anything less than a Gen X, you're going, what are you talking about? Cash? But we used to get paid cash. This is your money. Here's your money. And my dad ran his own business and we drove down and we would fill up the car because he had a petrol station. We filled up the car with petrol. Not a petrol station. He had a petrol bowser at his work. And so we would fill up the car with petrol and we would pick up the paychecks. And we would then go to the supermarket and spend the money on food. And so my inner child had this story about this paycheck, and it was the man makes the money. There you go. The money is man-made. So my dad made money. My dad made the money. My mum picked up the check. So just get this. So the mum's always picking up the check. She's picking up the money and then spending it. And what would happen in my energy system, I would get money and it would just go out as quick as it would go in because the money to get it was hard because I had this belief that dads make money. And there was no way I could be a dad because I was a girl. So in my mind, I was like, I didn't know how to make money because I'm not a dad. I'm not a man. I don't know. And this is patriarchy stuff. But at the same time, this is my inner child's learning. Like back in the day, mums didn't work. So our children will have different beliefs because mums work. And so for them, it's the door's already open. Whereas back then we were like, what? So dad's making the money, mum's picking it up and we're spending it. As you can imagine, any money I've ever made, and I've made money in my lifetime, has always just been in and out. Like it literally, I could make money and a bill would come in for it to go out. And I've been working on slowing that down, building more of a legacy, which is why I've done a year in wealth and just like, how do I feel wealthy, which is the start of the process. But to get that overflow of income, that shift in the mentality of my dad makes the money. When I went back and spoke to my inner child, I was literally, this little girl was so intrigued by this money check. By the way, I just think that's yellow. And you take that and you give that to the people at the supermarket and then you get food. And you take that and you take it to the shop and you get things. But I was always intrigued, like, how is he making the money? What is he doing? And so there was this inner question of how do I do that if I'm not a dad? And I've always had a brilliant career. So this is obviously part of a journey where I have expanded in my career. Like when I was in leadership roles all through my corporate career, building teams, I'm making millions of dollars, and I was doing the work to get the money. When I launched my own business, it's a whole other game. The entrepreneurship is literally a whole other game. I can't tell it. It is it's an inside job, especially for women, I think, because we have all this stuff like caught up. And I put myself out there in my life, and it enabled me I was always following that. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And I would just work it out. This is how you make money. This is how you sell. Like I was in sales for 20 years, now 30 years, but in context, working for someone else, I was in sales for 20 years. In my own business, like the revenue was directly linked more because I knew you could get a paycheck. You go get a paycheck. Working for someone else, see, my little mind is saying, well, my dad got a paycheck. Well, so at some point in my life, someone said, you can go and get a paycheck too. So I was like, I don't have to be a dad to get a paycheck. But now how do I pay myself? I had to learn this in business, and a lot of people start business don't pay themselves, and it's an interesting kerfuffle. However, my little one is so lit up by this whole concept of where does money come from now? Like what does it look like? And I'm showcasing my career of how you can make money, all the different ways you can invest, you can work, you can make purchases, you can buy things and sell them for profit. Like I'm explaining all these things that I know how to do because of my career. And she's lit up. Like there's nothing stopping her. She's so lit up. She's like clapping with excitement, like, wow. But before that, she was sitting there dormant, just feeling ashamed that she couldn't crack the code. Like she was like, there's nothing I can do. I just feel ashamed that I can't do this because I'm not going to be a dad. Funny enough, I talk to my daughter all the time. I am the mum and the dad because I'm a solo parent. Like I had her on my own and there is no dad figure. And she has men in her life and grandpas and brothers and uncles and all that kind of stuff. However, for me, we had this whole discussion the other day about the fact that I am a mum and a dad. So I even built a life where I could be a dad too, because I've got to do mum things and dad things. That's what I was explaining to her. And I was like, I can't believe it's even coming out of my mouth because it's not that I don't believe that, but I was always like, wow, what is this code around money? There you go. I wanted to share this because it was such a brilliant, abundant move, and to really tap into the money codes that you have, shifting those and then tapping into the wealth codes. There's other codes as well around money. There's so many. There's masculine codes, there's feminine codes, there's sovereign codes. There's so many things that can block you from having money. But I had done the work and I was like still going, why wasn't it working for me? And it was really leaning into the fact of this, like noticing, being really aware and conscious with yourself that you're having a response. Now, yes, I'm picking up on her information as well as mine. I'm interested now to go back and look at this woman's profile. It was really funny because I was like, I'm not even going to follow this woman. And I was like, but I'm interested to know what it's about. So I saved her profile outside of my Instagram and put it into a thing. Like, this is a thing I need to look at. But I'm not ready to like lean into what she's got to offer yet because I'm really triggered by it. So I'm really excited to go back and have a look and see how I feel when I land there. But because now that I've unpacked my own stuff there, the information will still come whether I'm meant to be there or not. And I think that's two lessons really, that you're picking up on people's energy, especially if you're empathic, but you also have stuff. When you clear your stuff, like I pick up on people's energy on stuff that I've cleared. I'm very clear, like that's not mine. Whereas when I'm picking up stuff and I feel like I can feel like there's something there for me, it is like a little nudge. It's a little thing. And I watch people's own triggers, like when they're not dealing with those triggers and there's something there in that for them. It doesn't necessarily have to be for me, but I am really aware of what's for me because that's the most important. And when you understand that and you can do shadow work, your life will change because it's inevitable that you will come across shadows because we have suppressed. Like, it wasn't okay for me to be a moneymaker, basically. That was the story. And so I had shut her down and put her in wherever this little box felt so small. And now she's like clapping and tearing. So I said I was going to go and buy her some of the little yellow envelopes, put some money in, say, hey, give it to myself and go, hey, look, this is what it is. And then I went, no, she needs a bit of education here. I was like, so we don't work in yellow envelopes anymore. We work in banking systems and we have bank accounts for little kids. So we did understand that. But this part of me didn't understand this. And I was like showing her my bank account and the amount of money in there. She's, oh my God, look at this. This is fantastic. You mean I said, yes, bank accounts are limitless. They're limitless. You can put as much as you want in there. She's like, oh my God. So I'm having this conversation. It was so beautiful to listen to myself be okay and be lit up by this money in my mind that I don't need to learn the how. I already know the how to make money. I don't need to go outside of myself to get the answer. But thank God that we do have people around us who trigger us because you would never see those things. That's the point of them. That's the point of the triggers. What is that? There's something there for me. What is it? Sometimes there isn't anything for you. And to understand that that's completely okay. And mind you, I've shifted a lot of things to get to this point. I'm pretty far along the journey and the income had already started to shift a lot. And that's brilliant. But it was the consistency. And the other shift was you can keep money. So going to the other side of the coin was that, yeah, if I can make it, does that mean mum doesn't have to spend it either? And I was like, exactly. We can actually keep money, which is a whole different energy for me without that money just going in and out. And it's understanding the part of me that had the story. Well, mum picks up the money. I need help to get money. Money gets given to you in an envelope. You then go and pay for food with it. And my mother was a CEO in the end and she earned her own money. But back in that time when I was really young, that wasn't the case. And so that programming just needed to be relooked at. When I explained to my little one, hey, you are the money maker, but you also can keep it. Yes, you control your money. You do what you want with the money. I felt a level of permission land that I was allowed to keep my money. I was allowed to enjoy my money. I was allowed to have money. I was allowed to be the money maker. I was allowed to have all these things that I'd been seeing outside of myself. And I was like, I'm allowed to have those. And so that's the landing in the body. The permission, the allowing, the letting yourself have the things that you deeply desire. And sometimes that desire is so pushed down. I always knew I wanted to make money, but I was done hustling for money. And this is a shift in not having to hustle for money. Because when your suppressor of moneymaker is deep down, you've got to come right out and hustle to get that money. And I don't need to do that anymore. The money can land. The money can be, I can have conversations. I'm allowed to talk about money. I'm allowed to be with money. I'm allowed to be friends with money. I'm allowed to be excited and feel good about money. And I think that's the shift that in abundance, and in this particular one is about money, because abundance is many things. That was the interesting thing that was showing me. Yes, you can see people who've cracked money codes. That doesn't mean they've cracked every code because they're a human. So they may not have cracked the wealth. They may not have cracked the health. They may not have cracked the relationship. They may not have. There's so many codes that tap into the word abundance. Like, it's not just one word and it's not just one thing. Although many people start off with abundance being money, because it's the thing that gets us a lot of the things that we desire. Essentially was, for me, the money, as much as it's lighting me up, it's really the freedom, or it's the fact that I'm allowed to be lit up. I'm allowed to be lit up making money, coaching women to their abundant self. Like, I'm allowed to be lit up in my business. I'm allowed to be lit up. And that was where I didn't feel I had the permission as a young child because I wasn't a man. I hope this supports you. And if you have any questions or you want to continue the conversation, join us in the Abundant Podcast Facebook group. Or you can shoot one in my DMs and we can have a chat if you want to explore these things for you further, because abundance is many things, and often we're blocked in one, we're blocked in the other. And to be honest, it's funny when I just as I said that, there was a block to relationship in that too, because relying on a man to make you money was never my thing. But it was part of my relationship journey too, which is starting to begin to open again now that my daughter is a little older and things are on the move. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you loved this podcast, make sure you're subscribed here for the next one, and we will connect again very soon. Have a good one. Here's to your abundance.